Hi, it's Jonathan, and welcome to another episode of Sigillum Multarum. Today, we will be covering the flag of the United Kingdom, which is one of the most recognizable national flags in the world. This video marks both the 150th Project Campfire development and my late St. Patrick's Day special. Considering you have to know the history of British flags to know about Irish flags, I decided to release two episodes today. One for the flag of Ireland and one for the flag of the United Kingdom. The flag of the United Kingdom is also known as the Union Jack or the Union Flag. In this video, I will talk about the name of the flag, its history, and the other flags used by the United Kingdom. Then instruct you on how to fly it right side up, before ending this video with a piece of trivia. Now, let's begin with the video. Union Jack or Union Flag? Before I begin with the history of the flag of the United Kingdom, I would like to clear up one thing. The name of the flag. It is often called the Union Jack or the Union Flag. As you may have noticed, the first name contains the word Jack, which in vexillology usually only refers to flags flown at the bow of ships. Therefore, it is sometimes thought that the flag of the United Kingdom is only called the Union Jack when it is flown on a ship, and the Union Flag in any other context. However, according to the Flag Institute, major vexillological charity in the UK, the Admiralty officially declared that the two names for the British flag can be used interchangeably regardless of its use at a given time. This decision was approved by the Parliament of the United Kingdom in 1908, so if anyone asks you if this flag is called the Union Jack or the Union Flag, you can tell them that it's both, regardless of its usage. In Canada, which shares a monarch with the UK, it can even also be called the Royal Union Flag. As an extra bit of trivia, outside the Commonwealth realms, the flag of the UK also has the Chinese language nickname of Mizi Chi, or Rice Character Flag, which comes from the fact that the Union Jack looks like the Chinese character for rice. Those are the several names for the flag of the United Kingdom of Great Britain and Northern Ireland. Now, let's move on to its history. History. Although the United Kingdom is a somewhat recent country compared to many others, the origin of its flag is actually much older than the UK itself. In order to understand the history of the British flag, we have to first understand the history of the flags of two of its constituent countries, England and Scotland. Beginning with England, before its unification in 927, it did not have its own flag, although some of the early medieval kingdoms in the area did use flags. Examples of early medieval flags used in England include those used by Northumbria in the 7th century, or Sussex in the 5th century. As a side note, although they no longer exist as independent countries or even unified entities, the flag of Sussex has been readopted for symbolic use by the historical county of Sussex on May 20th, 2011. Returning to the Middle Ages, England became a unified country in 927, although the flag of England was not created until several centuries later. In the late 1200s, England began using a red cross on a white background as one of its symbols. Though not as a flag, but rather a symbol worn by English soldiers. It was later, during the mid-1300s, that the Red Cross of England began to be depicted in paintings as a flag. So for the purposes of this video, this can be considered the adoption of the flag of England. Around this time, St. George, the legendary Christian saint best known for appearing in one legend as a dragon slayer, became the patron saint of England, and because the Red Cross on a white background was already used as a symbol of St. George, the flag of England became associated with him, with the pattern becoming known as St. George's Cross. Around the same time, Scotland adopted its own patron saint. In the early 1300s, St. Andrew, a Christian apostle, became the patron saint of Scotland. From 1385, a blue and white cross, known as St. Andrew's Cross, or the saltire, became the symbol of Scotland's army. Over 150 years later, in 1542, the St. Andrew's Cross was first recorded as being the flag of Scotland, although at the time it was made with both a sky blue field and a dark blue field, with the exact colors of the field only being standardized in 2003. Apart from that lack of standardization on Scotland's part, After 1542, England and Scotland had the flags that they still use today. And in fact, the next major event of British vexillological history would only occur over 60 years later. In 1603, King James VI of Scotland became the King of England, and also Ireland because Ireland was an English client state at the time, in an event known as the Union of the Crowns. As a result, although England and Scotland, and to an extent Ireland, remained separate countries, they all shared the same king. To symbolize this, in 1606, King James VI and First, as he became known, commissioned a new flag for Great Britain to fly at sea. Essentially the English flag placed on top of the Scottish flag. This flag was officially called His Majesty's Jack, but soon became known as the King's Colours, as well as by its current names of Union Jack and Union Flag. In addition to this flag, an unofficial version of the Union Jack, used in Scotland at the time, placed the Scottish flag on top of the English flag. This is the way things would stay in British vexillology for most of the next 100 years, with only one interruption. In 1649, the British monarchy in England was overthrown by the Commonwealth of England, resulting in several flags other than the St. George's Cross flying over England. On March 5, 1649, a flag for use by English admirals, vice-admirals, and rear-admirals was adopted. The St. George's Cross representing England on the left, and a harp representing Ireland on the right. Note that this flag was created while the Commonwealth of England was invading Ireland, but before the latter's conquest was completed in 1653. This flag is sometimes considered the national flag of England for the time from 1649 to 1651, when it was replaced as a national flag by this flag, which contained the St. George's Cross on the top left and bottom right corners, and the St. Andrew's Cross on the bottom left and top right corners. The St. George's Cross represented England, while the St. Andrew's Cross represented Scotland, which, while claimed by the Commonwealth of England, was not under its control until 1653. After that point, the Commonwealth of England became the Commonwealth of England, Scotland, and Ireland, also known as the Protectorate, which had nothing to do with autonomous territories controlled by foreign militaries. The same flag as before remained in use, although the standard of Oliver Cromwell, the Protectorate's leader, is also associated with this time. This flag was similar to the 1651 flag, with the St. George's Cross in the top left and bottom right corners to represent England, the St. Andrew's Cross in the top right corner to represent Scotland, a harp in the bottom left corner to represent Ireland, and a black shield with a white lion in the centre to represent Cromwell himself. The 1651 flag remained in use until 1658, when the Protectorate was reverted back to being the Commonwealth of England. With these changes, a final flag for the Commonwealth was adopted, the Commonwealth Jack, which was the same as the pre-1649 Union Jack, with the Irish harp on a blue shield in the centre of the flag. This final flag was abolished in 1660, when the British monarchy in England, Scotland, and Ireland was restored, and with it the flags that were flown before 1649. England and Scotland remained two separate kingdoms under one king for another 47 years, until a major change in politics occurred that would formally unify Great Britain. In 1707, the Acts of Union were passed by the Parliaments of England and Scotland, resulting in the two formerly separate kingdoms finally unifying to form the Kingdom of Great Britain, the first country to rule over the whole of Great Britain. With that merger, the 1606 Union Jack was retained as the national flag of Great Britain. After the Acts of Union in 1707, the British flag would remain the same for 94 more years. But before we get to that last change, there is one more flag over in Ireland to talk about. In 1783, the Kingdom of Ireland, still a client state of Great Britain, adopted this flag, a white field with a red diagonal cross on it. This flag is dedicated to St. Patrick, the patron saint of Ireland, and is therefore called the St. Patrick's Saltire. I am mentioning this here because this flag would soon become part of the Union Jack itself. In 1800, the Acts of Union 1800 was passed by the Parliaments of Great Britain and Ireland, which resulted in Ireland formally merging with Great Britain to form the United Kingdom of Great Britain and Ireland on January 1st, 1801. On that same day, the St. Patrick's Saltire was added to the Union Jack to represent Ireland. This flag would go on to be used for the rest of the history of the United Kingdom of Great Britain and Ireland. And even when most of Ireland became an independent country in 1922, The 1801 Union Jack was retained by the rest of the UK, now renamed the United Kingdom of Great Britain and Northern Ireland. Since the partition of Ireland in 1922, the St. Patrick's Cross now represents Northern Ireland, both as part of the Union Jack and as a separate unofficial flag of Northern Ireland. As for the national flag itself, it has stayed the same ever since 1801, although there are a few proposals to change the flag, most notably to represent Wales on the flag. Currently, Wales does not have its own element on the Union Jack, because back when the Union Jack was designed, Wales was considered an integral part of England, so the Cross of St. George represented England and Wales. As a result, there are several 21st century proposals to add the Welsh dragon to the centre of the Union Jack. No action has yet been taken on this proposal, although in 2007 the British Parliament debated on the matter, and the Culture Minister at the time, Margaret Hodge, said that the government is keen to make the Union flag a positive symbol of Britishness, reflecting the diversity of our country today and encouraging people to take pride in our flag. Until such a change occurs to the British flag, that is the history of British flags. Now, let's talk about the other flags used in the UK. Other flags. In addition to the Union Jack itself, there are also several other flags used by the United Kingdom. There are the flags used by each of the 3 or 4 constituent countries of the UK. As mentioned before, England uses the St. George's Cross, and Scotland uses the St. Andrew's Cross. There is also Wales, whose flag features a white and green field with the red dragon of Wales on it. This flag had been used in its current form since 1959, although from 1953 until then, they used the Welsh coat of arms instead of just a dragon, and the first modern Welsh flag, used from 1807 until 1953, was just a white field with the dragon standing on green grass. There is also Northern Ireland, which does not have an official flag, although 2 different versions of a flag called the Ulster Banner have been semi-officially used in the past. From 1924 until 1953, the Ulster Banner had a white field with a red cross containing a 6-pointed star containing a red hen in the center and a crown on top of the star. In 1953, in time for the coronation of Queen Elizabeth II, the Ulster Banner was slightly changed so the crown would look different. The Ulster Banner stopped being used by the Northern Irish government when it was suspended in response to the Troubles in 1972. However, to this day, the Ulster Banner is sometimes used as an unofficial flag of Northern Ireland, especially at sports events. In addition to the Ulster Banner, another flag used as an unofficial Northern Irish flag, since the creation of the current Northern Irish government in 1998, is the flag of the Northern Ireland Assembly, the current Parliament of Northern Ireland. The flag of the Northern Ireland Assembly is a white field with a light blue outline around the outside and several light blue twigs of flowers, the logo of the Northern Ireland Assembly on the inside. Other than the constituent country flags, there are also the 3 royal standards of the Queen of the United Kingdom, one for the monarchy in general, one for the monarch in Scotland, and one specific for Queen Elizabeth II. The Prince of Wales also has 6 of his own standards, and some other less significant members of the British royal family have standards of their own. Other than the royal standards, the United Kingdom also has several types of ensigns based on the Union Jack, collectively called the British ensigns. They each have the Union Jack on the canton and a field with different colours to indicate their usage. They may also have a shield on the fly to indicate use by a certain government, organisation, or territory. A British ensign with a white field and a red cross is called a white ensign and is mostly reserved for Royal Navy ships, but is also used by the Royal Yacht Squadron and ships escorting the British monarch. An ensign with a blue field is called a blue ensign and is often used by British government vessels. An ensign using a red field is a red ensign, also called the Red Duster, and is used by merchant ships based out of the UK. There is also a Royal Air Force ensign with a light blue field and the roundel of the Royal Air Force on the fly. In a similar vein, there is also the Civil Air Ensign, which looks the same as the Royal Air Force ensign, but has a blue and white cross instead of a roundel. The Royal Air Force ensign is used at RAF stations, while the Civil Air Ensign is used at civilian airports and on civilian aircraft. Those are the usages of the ensigns of the UK for the most part. The red and blue ensigns are also often used as flags for the British overseas territories, with each territory's badge applied on the flag. The blue ensign has even inspired the flags of several former British colonies, including Australia and New Zealand, or if you count lighter blue shades, Fiji and Tuvalu. All in all, the British ensigns are actually too numerous to list in this video, so links to a list of British ensigns will be down in the description. As I mentioned before, many of the flags of the British overseas territories, dependent territories of the UK located around the world, are also blue or red ensigns, which alongside the flags of the separate crown dependencies, will be getting its own video in the future. For now, let's move on to one funny piece of advice. How not to fly the Union Jack upside down. The Union Jack looks pretty symmetrical at first, but you can still fly it upside down anyway. If you look closely at the St. Patrick's saltire, you can see that it isn't quite symmetrical. Notice that the top left corner of the St. Patrick's cross ends just below the top left corner of the rest of the flag, leaving a bit of the white of the St. Andrew's cross to end at the very edge of the flag. Also notice that on the bottom left corner, the St. Patrick's cross reaches all the way to the edge of the flag. This interesting detail on the Union Jack has led to it being flown upside down very frequently, and in fact, less than half the British population knows how to fly it right side up. This odd detail exists to place the St. Andrew's Cross above the St. Patrick's Cross, and so gives Scotland a higher rank on the flag than Ireland, due to Scotland being formally united with England before Ireland. This may also serve as a hidden distress signal. If you don't want to be insulting, or if you aren't in an emergency at sea, remember, when hoisting the Union Jack, make sure there is a white space above the top left corner of the Union Jack, or else you'll be making a funny and hidden mistake. Now that you know how to fly the Union Jack right side up, let's move on to one last piece of trivia. Trivia. Did you know that the flag of the United Kingdom has two different proportions? Although the Union Jack usually has a 1:2 proportion, it can also have a 3:5 proportion. The 1:2 proportion is more commonly used in general, while the 3:5 version is usually used by the British Army, and is considered the UK's war flag. Both of these are official British flags. On the latter, the St. Patrick's Cross reaches to all four corners of the flag, so you don't need to worry about flying it upside down. The 3:5 proportions used on the war flag was also once used all the time for the pre-1801 Union Jack. Those are the flags of the United Kingdom. Now, on to the outro. I know you know more about the flag of the United Kingdom. In this video I've talked about the name of the British flag, its history, and the other flags flown in the UK, as well as how to fly the national flag correctly, and some trivia relating to its proportions. Right after this video is uploaded, I will make another video talking about the flag of Ireland for St. Patrick's Day. In addition, at a later time, I will also make a video about the flags of Crown dependencies and British overseas territories, so stay tuned for those. For now, I hope you enjoyed this video. If you did, please leave a like on it. And if you enjoyed this entire channel, subscribe to it. And if you want to know when my next video will be coming out, click the bell button after you subscribe. And I'll see you in the next video.